Hi, welcome to Roy's Book Reviews. I'm Roy, and before I get into my latest video, I'd like to address the question you're probably asking of yourselves, which is that the greatest hat you have worn at one of your BookTube videos, Roy? The answer is yes, very possibly yes. I purchased this hat right before the 4th of July 2021 while on vacation on the Jersey Shore. It's not my usual hat of choice to walk around the streets with, except of course on a day like the 4th of July or some other patriotic holiday. So, shout out to America. And now I am going to get into my review of Black Buck by Mateo Askaripour. Black Buck makes for a quirky, largely enjoyable read filled with social commentary on black-white race relations that veers from lighthearted to sharply critical. The style of prose goes down easily for readers who prefer accessible writing that really sends them to a dictionary or a thesaurus to confirm what a word means. The plot follows a young black man who is not living up to the potential that his scholastic accomplishments suggest is possible for him. Darren not only attended prestigious Bronx High School of Science, but graduated valedictorian. Side note, my sister attended the Bronx High School of Science. I applied and came up 8 points short on the test to get in, so I ended up going to Cardinal Spellman High School. Great experience there, but that's the end of my connection to Bronx High School of Science. Yet rather than moving on to higher education at an elite college, he works at Starbucks on the ground floor of an office building. He is generally satisfied with his life, despite his mother's insistence that he is cut out for more. This is understandable, since Darren and his mother live in a spacious home, along with a tenant downstairs, that his mother owns. Darren is the manager at Starbucks and fond of the staff there. He hangs out with his best friend from early childhood on a regular basis, and he has a beautiful, supportive, soulmate girlfriend. So even though Darren can be considered to be an underachiever professionally, it's understandable why he is content with what he has without yearning for much more. But one day, for no particular reason, he decides to talk to a customer, decides to talk him into trying a different drink than his usual selection. The man is impressed with Darren's sales pitch, and he happens to be a sales manager at a startup company in the building. Rhett recruits Darren to become one of his salespeople. Initial reluctance by Darren is eventually overcome, and he decides to give it a shot. He and 2 other recruits go through what seems more like a fraternity hazing period than job training. And Darren, who is the only African American in the group, is given the hardest time by a manager named Clyde. Each of the recruits are given nicknames. And from this point on in the story, Darren is known to most people in the book as Buck. Without going into too much detail and steering clear of spoiler territory, I'll sum up the rest of the plot in broad strokes. Buck becomes alienated from the people in his former life. His best friend Jason switches on a dime to becoming his enemy. He and his girlfriend Soraya break up, and Darren's mother dies. It turns out that she had cancer and was keeping it secret from Darren, but not from the tenant, who is like a surrogate grandfather to Darren. His father had passed away when he was a child. Darren, or Buck, is so furious that he was kept in the dark about his mother's condition that he throws the elderly man out of his home, even though he has no other family to go to. Buck throws himself full bore into his new world. Being a great salesman at a company that is relentlessly thriving is all that matters. His work colleagues become his new family. Then comes the next narrative shift in Black Buck, where Buck ends up becoming a mentor to other African Americans who want to better their situations by becoming super salespeople. It starts out with just one person, then two, and then before you know it, along with his regular job, Darren is running a worldwide but also top secret organization that cranks out success stories. The definition of success being getting hired to be a well-paid salesperson in spite of not being white. Is a lot of the plot of Black Buck over the top? Yes, I would say so. Are complex social issues boiled down to utter simplicity? You betcha. Did my eyes roll over when plot machinations seemed rather implausible, such as a childhood friend becoming an enemy overnight simply because of a change in jobs? Most definitely. If you consider Black Buck to be in the category of parody, satire, then you take much of it in with a large grain of salt. But is that what it is? I went to the Amazon page for Black Buck, where there is a Q&A with the author. Askaripour is asked, "Did you set out to write it as a satire?" He replied, "The straight-up answer is no. In fact, before people started telling me it was satirical, I treated it as an earnest piece of work. I've discovered that it's both earnest and satirical, and I've had to learn how to hold both truths." So that was his answer. Now, in my opinion, if you read Black Buck strictly as an earnest piece of work, then it is only moderately successful. It's a little bit too over the top, a little too simplistic in some of its categorizations of why people do the things that they do. If you decide that the author isn't really taking this plot fully serious, despite the fact that he confessed that he was taking it quite seriously, but instead utilizing it to make pointed observations about society, you may hold this book in higher regard. Either way, it's a breezy read with a nifty plot twist at the end that you may or may not see coming. I don't consider Black Buck to be strong, masterful writing, but it does make for easy enough reading. And easy reading is more difficult to achieve than you might think. It has an initial lightness of tone with social commentary thrown in that grows darker, but not overly intense, as the story moves along. The characters serve their roles in moving the plot along, more than becoming fully fleshed out people on the page. It's certainly a unique story that doesn't remind me of anything I've read in the past. And originality, like readability, is easier said than done. I didn't love Black Buck, but did find plenty in it to like a great deal. And so I do recommend it. That pretty much sums up what I have to say about Black Buck. Check it out. Don't check it out based on what I said, what I didn't say. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. If you care to subscribe to my video channel, I would greatly appreciate it. If you want to just pop in and say, "Hey Roy, great hat," I'd appreciate that. I would appreciate that as well. Until next time, happy reading.